Hey guys, it's Jessie. It's been a little bit longer than I would have liked to. And yeah, life got crazy. I started dating. Things have been a little bit on the crazy side for me personally as of late. But Inkwell has still continued on, and I'm happy to report that it's doing really well. So, here we are with our next in the webinar series on screenwriting tips. Originally I was going to go about actually telling you how to write a screenplay, but I became completely and utterly befuddled by the volume of knowledge and realized that I have no idea how to do that. So I'm going to go over some of the basics with you today, and yeah. You'll be on your way to starting your very own screenplay, though I can't guarantee that it will be 100% accurate on all of the little things. So, here we go. So, we're going to start pretty simply with the first page of the screenplay. You have to understand that all of the margins in the different areas are going to be different, so I'm going to be outlining those so that you'll have accurate format. So on the first page, the top, bottom, right margin, and the right margins of the screenplay are 1 inch. The left margin is 1.5 inches. It's the extra half inch of white space needed to allow for the binding with brads, so that it gives you more room for that, and so that there won't be any of the text cut off. So keep that in mind throughout the next few pages. So, that being said, I'm going to go over now some of the screenplay elements. There is a scene heading. The left indent is 0.0, right indent 0.0, and the width is 6 inches. So keep in mind that all of these are taken into consideration with the constant 1.5 inch margin on the left side. Alright, so the scene heading is a one-line description of the location and time of day of a scene, also known as a slug line. This should always be in caps. An example of that, and I'm taking these from filmmakeriq.com. It was a article on a guide to screenwriting, and we'll be sharing that with you at the end. And yeah, so anyway, so an example of that is the exterior of the writer's store, the time of day is day, reveals the action taking place outside the writer's store during the daytime. Up next is a subheader. The indent once again is 0.0 to the left and to the right, with a 6 inch allowance for for the gap. Says when a new scene heading is not necessary but some distinction needs to be made in the action, you can use a subheader. Make sure that you use these sparingly, however, and it's generally frowned upon. A good example is when there are a series of quick cuts between two locations. You would use the term intercut and then go to the scene locations. So, underneath the subheader, if you should have one, is the action. Once again, the 0.0 indents on the left and right sides, allowing for 6 inches worth of width. The action is a narrative description of the events in the scene, written in present tense. Make sure it's in present tense, it's important. Also less commonly known as direction, visual exploration, black stuff, description, or scene direction. Remember, these are the things that should only be heard or seen, because in essence you're working in the visual medium. So your actors and your director need the direction in order to be able to continue on with their roles. So, moving on, we have a character line, which is mostly dialogue, and this is a 2 inch margin on the left with 0 indentation on the right, allowing for 4 inches of the character. line. When a character is introduced, his name should be capitalized within the action. For example, door slammed shut and Liam, all in caps, 30-something hipster with attitude to spare. The character's name is capped and always listed above his lines of dialogue. Minor characters may be listed without names, for example, a taxi driver or a customer, or, you know, something along those lines. And I'm sure that you can go many, many places with that without much direction. So, underneath the character is the dialogue, something that we have been over in the past, and you should all be experts at by now. The dialogue is indented an additional inch to the left and allows for 1.5 on the right, so it gives you a total width of 3.5 inches. These go over the lines of speech for each character. The dialogue format is used anytime a character is heard speaking, even if it's off-screen or voiceovers. Now, technically, there are differences between the off-screen dialogue and voiceovers and whatnot. So, like, if you were going to do a voiceover, then you would have the character's name with the parenthetical of V period O period. So that would just give the actor more direction as far as that's concerned. Alright, so that being said, brings us to a parenthetical. The indent is again 1.5, with the right margin being 2 inches, which only leaves you a very small 2.5 inch margin. A parenthetical is a direction for a character that is either an attitude or is action oriented. With roots in the playwriting genre, today's parentheticals are very rarely used, and generally only if absolutely necessary. So there are 2 reasons given for this. The first is that if you need to use a parenthetical to convey what's going on in your dialogue, then you may want to consider a rewrite for the script. Second, it's a director's job to instruct the actor on how to deliver a line, and everyone knows not to encroach on the director's turf. Well, since the rest of us live in a world where directors aren't snotty, censored people, you're going to want to explain these things, I feel. So, because 9 times out of 10, you'll be the one directing them, and you'll be the one that wants to no, you'll be the one that wants to direct them and tell them what to do. So you can use these sparingly if you choose. If you do not want to use them at all, how about it? I'm not going to stop you. Alright, so up next is the extension, placed after a character's name in parentheses. And this is an abbreviated technical note placed after the character's name to indicate how the voice will be heard on screen, like I said, with the voiceovers, with the parenthetical quotations, and then the V period O period.